Hey everyone, this is Julian from Behind Company Lines. Today we're interviewing Jacob Jolibois, co-founder and CPO of Check. Check is helping home service operators streamline and automate their businesses. Jacob, it's so exciting to chat with you, and not only because of your background, your career, and how you got really into entrepreneurship, but also thinking about this really interesting industry that, we're all kind of familiar with as we're growing up in terms of like home service. And I think we all kind of had some ongoing business, I think for most entrepreneurs, but really you kind of, as you see kind of the landscape, no pun intended, of a lot of the kind of the mass amount of service that a lot of people need in their homes, and kind of how it's completely different in terms of the shifted in terms of workers and individuals in that nature, and how a lot of these single operators become businesses and looking to kind of maintain a consistent client base versus continue to acquire. So I'm curious, and I'm sure the audiences and kind of timelines and cycles for these people to really keep these clients on board and how they can really scale their business. And before we get into all that, of course, what were you doing before you started the company?
Yeah, man, it's been a long journey to get where I am today, but it started with wanting to be a professional photographer. That was kind of my lifelong dream. I shot commercially for 8 years. I really loved that world. That led me into the marketing world where I found design and fell in love with that. Haven't fully left photography, but enough that I wanted to make the switch career-wise to a design focus.
Yeah.
And I started with designing the typical ad stuff. You've got your brochures, your billboards,
Yeah.
business cards, that sort of thing. And somewhere along the way, one of my managers gave me a shot at designing a website.
Yeah.
And man, after that first website, I was hooked on anything UI design.
Yeah.
I wanted to design user experiences to make them beautiful, to make them fun and engaging and functional. And I left graphic design in the dust as fast as I could and went full throttle on digital. Fast forward about 4 years, and me and my co-founder met and decided to start a company together. And I knew from then on I wanted to devote my time to product, because I could really, rather than jumping from client to client in the marketing world, I could focus in on something and make
Yeah.
it the best it can be.
It's so fascinating thinking about your design background, and a lot of people in terms of building application, the building user experiences. I think we all kind of in nature think we have some intuition around what that would be. But I think in practice, it's a lot different. It's a lot more sophisticated than I think we all kind of give it credit for. And I'm curious, just as somebody who has a product and wants to offer a great experience for my customers, where do I start? Where do we start in terms of thinking about the user experience and not doing the traditional thing with like, all right, act like I'm the user and see how my journey would be, but really consider the different kind of profiles of people who are coming to actually interact with your technology. How do you think about incorporating all those different individuals?
Yeah. This is a really tough question, and it really depends on the audience that you're going after. First of all, let me just say that it is just like any other skill, something that has to be worked on. The best way to know that the user experience design is complicated is to go back and look at your old stuff and be like, wow, how much have I grown over the last year in understanding how an experience should be designed. If you can see that shift, then okay, there's still a lot left to learn. But I think some of the best ways are, number one, emulate what's already out there. A lot of people have already gone before you. They've invented the wheel. You don't have to reinvent it. If it's a login screen, for example, something simple like that, use best practices based on the apps that have in billion-dollar user research teams. They've already gone before and blazed the trail. You can ride on their coattails. As far as creating a great experience within the product that is unique to you, this is something that has to be in the hands of your users, and you got to watch them play with it. This is the toughest thing because, at least for me, interacting with the users is always scary, especially since I was the one working on the product, because it was a chance for me to be vulnerable and for them to shoot me down and say, your design sucks. I don't like this at all. What are you doing? Right? So that's always tough. But once you can see how they play with the product, how they interact with it, you'll begin to pick up on the more intuitive aspects of experience design and UI design. So to me, that's the best method to get from 0 to 100. And then, of course, within the gaps of time, I'm constantly studying, designing fun side projects, anything I can do just to up level.
Yeah. And thinking about, I think a lot of different ways, at least founders thinking about how people interact with their product is kind of going through this this big tutorial kind of workflow when you enter a product and kind of shows you all these different things that you could be incorporated with. But there's interesting, if you talk to enough founders, there's a distinct line in philosophies of just getting people in there to crash course it and they figure out, they break some stuff and they ask and go to the FAQs and go through that experience, or they're kind of catered through this journey. Where do you stand and what do you think? Is it dependent on the product or do you have like a distinct line that you've drawn?
Yeah, it definitely is depending on the product. For example, if you're serving more enterprise clients, you've got to really craft the details of that. You don't want to put a half-baked product in front of a company that's paying you $10,000 a year or something like that. But if you're more user-focused or consumer-focused, then yeah, get something out there as soon as possible and then iterate from there. I will say there's like 3 distinct phases of a company's growth that you need to pay attention to when it comes to this sort of thing. The first phase is get something out there and I kind of hate this phrase, but break things. Like it's okay to fail a little bit.
Yeah.
People are going to be more forgiving when your product's in beta or early release, and you can learn a lot. The second phase is when you begin to move up market. You want something a little more stable. You're not okay with breaking things with every release. You don't want every other release to be just a big chunk of bug fixes.
Right.
Ideally, you're releasing something solid each time. And then finally, whenever you get out of that phase, you're probably working on something more enterprise or more polished for tens of thousands of users. At that point, you're definitely going to want to have teams testing, unit testing, all that kind of stuff to make sure that the final release is going to be as polished as possible. But until then, like it's okay to be a little rougher around the edges just to get feedback quickly.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you view testing in terms of like different feature sets between different customers, and how do you do that in a way that you're not necessarily changing the experience too much to where your customers say have a difficulty returning to your product? And this is in the cases where maybe you're not necessarily listening to customer feedback, or maybe you have, and you have maybe a really distinct hypothesis you want to test. How do you test it properly so that you don't have any drop off? Because I think that is somewhat of a hesitation that a lot of founders have. If it's broke, don't fix it kind of mentality. But I think in this industry, you really have to always continue to progress your product and kind of be the leader in the innovative space. How do you test well in creating the right testing environment for different features from a product
I'm
standpoint?
going to be totally honest. This isn't something that I think we're great at yet. Testing is probably the part of product development that I'm the weakest at and that our team is the weakest at, only because we've been moving so fast for the last 3 years that we haven't had the luxury of time to pay attention to it.
Yeah.
That being said, it is something we're working to get better at. So we put together a pretty comprehensive testing checklist aside from the automated tests that our team always checks the main function of the app with each release, just start to finish, make sure that it's nice and clean. We don't have a ton of different user personas. So it's not like we're trying to test among a subset of users and then another subset. We don't have to worry about that, thankfully. So I'm not super informed on how other teams might handle that in order to break up the testing groups.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as we go, yeah, we try to get in there and actually use the product every day and make sure it works. So
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Check and what in particular inspired you to go in this direction. What was the catalyst for not only starting the company, but tackling this problem, which is, I think, lesser known, but once you dive into it and you can really see the amount of volume of individuals who are operating and the amount of people who need services, you really see the scale of the market. Describe, what inspired you and what's particularly excited about the traction that you've seen since the conception of the company.
Yeah. Let me start off by saying I understand home services is not sexy. It's not fintech or crypto or any of this sort of thing. But the reason why it's so exciting is because this industry doesn't get a lot of people focused on the experience.
Yeah.
If you think about any sort of home service, whether it's lawn care, plumbing, pressure washing, like these types of jobs are very physical, very physically demanding as well. You're going from house to house, you're performing physical services, and you're trying to put food on your table. So it's one of those where people aren't gonna pay a ton of attention to how the experience works. They just want it to work.
Yeah.
And because of that, the resulting competitors in this space have crafted very functional, but very poor experience products.
Yeah.
Specifically the ones that are in the enterprise space that are serving bigger home service providers with bunches of crews across state lines, all the complexities that go along with that. It's like the Salesforce of home service products, and it's just really clunky, really hard to navigate. But what you find out as you start looking into this industry is that enterprise companies are not the majority of the industry. The majority of the industry are what they call like jack in a truck. It's the guy with his lawnmower in the back of his pickup or pressure washing rig or whatever it is. And they're running maybe a single crew with 2 or 3 guys, maybe a couple crews, and they're servicing 4 or 5 neighborhoods, right? That is like the norm in this industry. And so there are hundreds of thousands of these people in the United States, or really across the world. And they are tired of enterprise products being the only thing on the market to serve their needs.
Yeah.
They're paying $300 to $500 a month for something that's so bloated and has so many features that they don't use 90% of them.
Yeah.
They want it to be simple. They want it to be beautiful, right? So when we originally got into it, we actually went from my co-founder approached me with the idea to do like on-demand lawn care services.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was that it's very difficult to find incredible vetted lawn care companies to come service your property.
Yeah.
Who are going to treat you professionally as a homeowner with professional invoicing, easy payments, that sort of thing. So we took a very unique approach with that, but we quickly found out, despite the technology being fantastic, the experience for the lawn care folks was not that good because they end up getting a smaller cut of the profits, and you're still trying to be competitive with pricing for homeowners. And so at the end of the day, they're the ones that get left out in the cold. And we need to reverse that script.
Yeah.
They need to be our priority. And as an extension of that, they're going to treat their customers as a priority.
Right.
So we actually ended up pivoting about a year in, and we started serving the home service operators themselves and saying, what can we do to make their job easier?
Yeah.
And as an extension, they're going to make their customers' lives easier. So that's when we kind of switched focus. And now our entire goal is to make, when you leave your house in the morning and you go serve your clients and you come home in the evening, everything work-related is left in the field. You don't have to come home and skip dinner because you're sending out invoices or collecting payments, or you do not have to even open your laptop.
Yeah.
That's the vision for this. We want to serve these people well and automate as much as we can and just make it a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a long answer, but I had to paint the picture.
No. It was fantastic. And you kind of realize the, amount of like labor outside of the physical labor that they end up doing. And I don't know if you have any numbers, but what kind of delay from job to payment is actually seen in this industry? And how does, the product kind of decrease that latency between when the job is completed to payment to really kind of also keeping this client engaged, being that a lot of these things are cyclical, whether you come every bi-monthly or bi-weekly, and it's hard to keep track of the schedules of every other client that you have. How are you able to do that?
Yeah, it's incredibly complicated. A lot of these guys run their business on a notebook that's sitting in the passenger seat of their truck. Truly, 50% of the industry runs it from a notebook, which is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
And the reason isn't because they don't have a calendar app on their phone or contacts in their phone. The reason is because it's so much simpler to move quicker when you can just jot something down in the margin of a notebook. And so they need something that's going to work fast and always be reliable. And when it comes to the extra work beyond the physical work of providing the services, they're spending approximately 10 plus hours a week just on invoicing, payment collections, route generation, all of this stuff that just takes time, but it's got to be done. And so what you end up doing is knocking out a day out of your week that you're not out in the field mowing. That's approximately 8 to 10 clients that you're not making money off of just because you're trying to collect money from your other clients that you've already served. So if you could automate that, then you automatically get that extra 20% higher margin in your business to be able to serve more customers. The next thing you mentioned was around turnaround times and payment cycles. let's be honest, most of these people run cash because cash under the doormat is so much easier than having to set up some complex payment system or what have you. So the problem with that is people will often forget to leave cash under the doormat. And so you end up having this wait time of maybe 1 to 2 months. And that is cash in the field, not in your hands, which means you can't pay for gas for your truck or your mowers. You can't pay for weed eater string. You can't pay for oil. Like all of these things that need cash flow coming in, it kind of handicaps you.
Yeah.
So what we try to do is shorten that with secure payment links included on every single invoice. Invoices get sent automatically as soon as you mark a job as complete. So that cash is typically going to hit your bank account within a couple of days instead of waiting that 2 months. So we try to shorten that time for them. And then the next thing is when you're dealing in cash, you're dealing in check, whatever, that money doesn't get into your bank account without you going to the bank and depositing it, right? So that's more time that you're taking out of time you could be serving clients, right? And it just makes things infinitely more complex. So what we try to do is shorten and eliminate that time as well.
Yeah. And it's fascinating thinking about one thing that comes to mind is how this industry was impacted by the gig economy, being that TaskRabbit was huge and all these other services are really trying to get people to have side hustles and kind of do this on a less professional basis. But it seems like things are shifting maybe back towards kind of that intimate relationship, the consistency, I don't care to pay a little bit more for something that I can expect the quality to be consistent every time. How has the gig economy affected this industry in particular, home services? And also, has it changed at all from kind of after COVID and when people are kind of realizing that you have to have like 20 different hustles to really kind of validate putting all that effort and time into doing something kind of auxiliary outside of your regular profession? But yeah, respond to that.
Yeah. So the gig economy is a tough one. It's a really good idea, but it kind of falls apart in practice. Here's why. Let's say you have a company similar to what we started out as, which was kind of a Uber for lawn care, right?
Yeah.
A homeowner reaches out to you and they say, hey, we want you to come cut our yard. You accept the job, you go, you cut it. The company that facilitates that transaction takes however much percent, 10, 20% of that transaction.
Yeah.
So you have gotten business, but you've taken a huge hit in your margin. Margins are already slim whenever it comes to time. So what you want to do is you want to steal that customer away from the platform and you want to hold that customer for yourself and do a deal without that intermediary.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is your platforms always are churning operators and homeowners because the operators are going to the homeowner, knocking on their door after they finish the job. And they're saying, hey, tell you what, if we don't go through this platform anymore, I'll give you $5-10 off and you get a deal. I get a deal. Everybody's happy. Yeah. And they take it offline. So the gig economy doesn't work out super well for these guys. They want to own that client relationship, which brings me to the next step, which is how do you have a consistent client relationship that retains over time? Yeah. That's one of the biggest issues. If you scalp a yard or break a window, those client relationships are very fragile as it is. They can go down the street, get another lawn care guy to come cut their grass and drop you super quick. So you need to look professional. You need to treat them very well. But when you're running and gunning, it's hard to keep that customer service mentality in your mind.
Yeah.
Communication falls apart. You end up forgetting to follow up on a particular customer complaint or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is another piece of the puzzle that we're trying to solve. We want to make it really easy for you to be professional with your clients without having to do anything really other than show up and serve the client well. So pre-written notifications to the client for the best communication possible, professional looking invoices that get sent on time every time, things like that really go a long way toward retaining that client even through the off season where you're at risk of losing them. So yeah, it's tough. And then COVID was a big one because we got hit with COVID right after we pivoted.
Yeah.
So I will say, I don't know fully what the impact of COVID was, because we were kind of always in COVID whenever
Yeah.
we started this
Yeah.
company.
Yeah.
So I don't have a before and after to compare, honestly, but because a lot of these home services are outdoors, whether it's pressure washing,
Yeah.
pool cleaning, lawn care, roofing, there isn't a ton of face-to-face interaction. So I don't think they actually got hit too much as far as losing clients. But yeah, that was definitely an interesting time.
Yeah. What do you think in terms of one thing that comes to mind is the ability for once, these home service operators have the ability to kind of use this machine and this engine to kind of automate almost like half of their business and their processes. What's the opportunity to actually scale? And what I mean by scale isn't like raise money and all this stuff, but really attack your customer base and maybe even expand to different neighborhoods and offer more services. And maybe that allows you to purchase more equipment. What you can really kind of not only do your service better, your current service, offer it to more clients, but even add other services on top of that to really another teams, the groups. Like once you automate that, how much ability do you have? I don't know if you've seen it thus far with the client or a customer, but with that ability to scale from operating and automating, this huge kind of workflow or time consuming workflow, I would say, rather.
Yes. So this is one of the biggest opportunities out there right now for these guys. If we look at how they typically get clients, they'll go knock on the doors of the neighbors of the folks they're serving.
Yeah.
Or it'll be word of mouth. A neighbor will tell their buddy and that person calls, right? And then the second option is SEO. Somebody says lawn care in my area and you need to pop up at the top. So those are two big ones, SEO, word of mouth. Right now, this problem is not being solved super well. The only real options are kind of finding people through your Angie's List or Home Advisors or kind of those listicle type websites.
Yeah.
As far as online discovery, or for word of mouth stuff, dropping flyers, giving people something they can pass along. Right.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do, we're tackling this in a few ways now, and we have plans for the future that I can't quite disclose just yet. But some of the ways we're tackling that now is we're giving all operators a free, professionally designed, mobile optimized, SEO friendly website. That is like step number one. You got to be able to show up at the top for your area. So we include that in the subscription fee, no extra charge. It just gets you out there. That has a bid request form on it that sends all bid requests directly to you, the operator. So we don't take a cut of that. We don't take any sort of fee for sending bids your way or leads your way. It is just built into Check as a product. The second thing that we're doing or planning to do is allowing folks to quickly text those links to folks who give them a call or text them and say, hey, I have a question. Rather than taking all that information by phone, which is hard, complicated. You're like holding the phone in your ear, you're like jotting stuff down in your notebook, or you're like putting them on speakerphone and trying to jot it all down. What would be the easier version of that? The easier version is you send them a link, they fill out that bid request form, that goes directly into Check, and everything is already pre-populated, and it's written by the homeowner, so you know it's going to be accurate, right? You didn't misspell anything or whatever. So trying to make that flow a little easier, and then immediately translating that bid into a job, into an invoice, and just from lead to payment. How do we automate that flow?
Yeah. What goes into doing that? Is it having a really sophisticated kind of API system on the back end to be able to integrate all these? What's been kind of the challenging part of the build, being that you're integrating so many different aspects? Integrating SMS into any platform or technology obviously is a headache, but can be done with certain platforms and sophistication. But what's been the biggest challenging part of that build, integrating so many different pieces of technology, creating such a seamless experience for individuals who really don't have the time to troubleshoot or test or submit tickets and doing all these things? They need that. What's been the biggest challenge there?
Yeah. So you mentioned SMS, and that is tough because you do have service providers like AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon that will lock out numbers that they think are spam. If you're constantly avoiding spam filters, if people get blocked out from text messages. You got to default to email. So you have to have an email address on file. But what if you don't have an email address on file? So honestly, the biggest headache is, or not headache, but challenge is trying to look at all the different branches of the experience and say, well, if this fails, what's a contingency?
Sure.
How do we still follow through with our promise of getting a lead in your hands and winning that lead? That's been real tough, but we're really excited for what we're building, and I think the future is going to be bright for these guys for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. What's some of the biggest risks that Check faces today?
I think the biggest risk is going to be not moving fast enough. We're shipping stuff every other week. I mean, we're moving as fast as we possibly can, but just like any startup, the risk is always, are you going to be able to survive your burn rate? Right. That's that's always the challenge. Even if you're doing really well on cash flow, you're still trying to grow as a company so that you can get in more people's hands quicker. And that means you got to spend money, and that means you got to raise money or some version of that. So I think that's probably the biggest risk. But as far as product goes, I'm confident, man. We've got a gorgeous product. It's fast, it's stable, it works beautifully. Yeah. People love it. I get compliments in our support channel all the time of people just saying, thank God y'all built this. Like, I've been waiting for it. So that gets me excited, and that makes me want to keep building.
Yeah. If everything goes well, what's the long-term vision?
Oh man. Okay. We're going to paint some pictures here. Long-term vision. We want to create the best product out there for homeowners and home service operators to be able to manage their work and their needs on the house. So what does that look like in practicality? We're talking about a fully automated experience start to finish. Let's just take the home service operator as an example. You wake up in the morning, you walk out the door, your phone knows that it's a normal work day, and it starts tracking time. As you go, it's looking at your route, it's determining when you stop at a particular point and for how long. It translates the time that you've spent at a particular spot into the time tracked for that job. You don't have to touch any sort of time tracking tools. You get there, it gives you an alert, tells you exactly what services are required at this particular property. You carry out those services. It gives you an alert right as you're about to leave, and it says, hey, you should go knock on this neighbor's door so that you can get that extra client. You go do that. Whenever you get back in your truck, you mark your job as complete. Invoices get sent out. Card on file gets charged. Payment goes right into your bank account. At the end of the day, you get home. You have zero work on your plate. It knows you're home. It stops your time. All of your time is tracked beautifully to your jobs. You know exactly what your effective hourly rate is for those jobs. You know exactly how much was charged. You know exactly what your production rate is. You know how fast you move, how many square feet per hour, that sort of thing. All of that is tracked beautifully within the app. You get real-time notifications, let's call it at the end of the day, that gives you a summary report of all of your insights. Did you lose any money on a particular job, or did your time go over, that sort of thing? Did you find a more optimal route that you can use so the next time you're not wasting time in traffic? How much did you earn? Much money did you spend on expenses? Where can you optimize that? At the end of the month, you're getting a nice overview, and it's setting you up for the next month. This is what your monthly income should be, assuming that all the jobs are completed on time and don't get bumped due to weather or whatever. If weather does happen, it automatically sends a notification out to your client base for that day and says, hey, we're going to bump you to tomorrow. And it reschedules everything automatically. For the homeowner side, you get an invoice and you can pay that immediately as a guest without creating an account or anything. It just allows you to check out. No hassle, no download this app and create an account and manage, none of that. If you have multiple folks using Check, multiple different home service providers using Check, it allows you to see all of your home service or all of your providers in a web portal using just your phone number. It's that simple. You don't have to go create an account or anything. You just see exactly what your bills are, exactly what your outstanding balance is, so you can pay that quickly and easily, card on file, that sort of thing. If you have a need, all the other providers that you're using have recommendations. They say, oh, I'm your lawn care guy. I also know a pressure washing guy if you need that. They're trusted. They're vetted by somebody you already trust. It's easy to hire them. It goes straight into their schedule, so there's no downtime, and just clean start to finish. That is the ultimate goal, man.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating thinking about how it integrates into teams and what are your plans in
Yes.
terms of if you are, say, the leader of multiple crews, how does technology incorporate the team in those environments, track that kind of information, being that you're not necessarily present on the job? How are you able to connect everyone on the crew into kind of building this overall global report of your operation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's really 3 parts to crews, and we actually just released this last month. You have to be able to track all of your team's information for tax and reporting purposes. That's number 1. You want to be a good business owner.
Yeah.
Number 2, you want to be able to assign those team members to crews and move them between crews as needed. Let's say they need an extra guy, so they pick one up from one of the other crews, that sort of thing. Got to be able to make that seamless. And number 3, you have to have permission sets that allow you to give the exact information you need to the right people. You don't want the wrong information getting into the wrong hands, or you don't want too much information overwhelming your folks on the ground. And you want to be able to maintain that high level view of the work that's getting done in the field.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest hurdles is that most of our competitors require that you're sitting at your laptop and managing your crews from a desktop enterprise app. And what we did is took a complete opposite approach. We said, what can we do to have this available on your mobile phone where you can manage everything within a couple clicks, super easy. And number 2, how can we make this fun? Like, let's goof off a little bit and infuse some personality in there. So we've got like the ability to assign emojis to crews just to kick up the fun a little bit. You can make the names whatever you want. We've already seen a bunch of people being kind of goofy with it and having fun with it.
I love that. Yeah.
Assigning jobs to crews is as simple as one tap. It's so simple. You can move stuff around really easily. If a guy is moving to a different crew for a day, super simple to swap them over, and suddenly now they get to see everything for that new crew as opposed to the original crew they were on. So it's really easy to manipulate those permission sets and, like I said, give people exactly what they need. And then, of course, a lot of these folks have admin staff, whether it's office staff or some of them have their wife helping them out with the books and stuff. So we gave a special admin role that allows them special privileges to also manage the team or look at some of the financial stuff. So we want to make that as seamless as possible and honestly just make it fun.
Yeah. I like this next section. I call my founder FAQ. So I'm going to hit you with some rapid fire questions and we'll see where we're going to go. What's particularly challenging in terms of just like working with a customer set that is kind of more, I don't want to say mom and pop, I think that's the wrong word. It's like, it's a small to medium sized business almost. It's kind of in this not traditional gray area in terms of like the classical categorization, but there's a lot of, say, emotion and tied into their outcomes, being that a lot of their businesses is really tied to, their familial success and things like that. What's kind of challenging as a founder dealing, or I guess managing the relationship with individuals like that, with the customer base like this, and honestly just like not letting it kind of affect you so drastically here and there.
Yeah. So the biggest challenge originally was that they're not as tech savvy as the folks that I interact with on Twitter or whatever.
Sure.
Which means that you can't skimp on clarity. Clarity must be number 1 in the product. So I started off with this really slick design that I thought was so cool, and it was taking advantage of all the type of stuff you'd see in like a Snapchat or TikTok type tool. Lots of swipe gestures and stuff that I thought was interesting. But that's not clear enough. You need a button that says exactly what that button's going to do, and it needs to do it. So the step 1 is designing something that is clear over clever. That is the biggest thing to keep in mind. The next thing was, how do you reach these people? You can't build your Twitter audience and like you can if you're serving like a developer audience or that. You can't really do like a TikTok thing, although we have had some TikTok success, but we're not targeting the right kind of people.
Mhm.
The folks running 5, 6 different crews, they're probably not going to be on TikTok. So you're not going
Yeah.
to be able to find them there. So getting in front of these people really does limit your options for a marketing and sales sort of approach. And the third thing is these folks are some of the people with the highest bullcrap meters in the world.
Sure.
Like they are the like salt of the earth people who know when you're screwing them over. And so
Yeah.
you have to be as genuine and authentic as possible. And
Yeah.
honestly, that's where we've shined. We don't do anything scummy or promote-y. Like
Yeah.
that just doesn't fly, man.
Yeah.
You've got to be real. And so when we're on the phone with these people, it is 100% real. Like, hey man, you're talking to the founder on his personal cell phone. This is as real as it gets.
Yeah.
We don't have salespeople in between you and the people who started this company. There's no, weird like marketing language trying to schmooze it up.
Sure.
We're just real. And when it comes to customer support requests, I wish I could show you my phone right now. I tag every person that I text that's a customer of ours with like a green check emoji.
Mhm.
And like over half of my text messages are customers who have a direct line to me, and they're texting me if they run into issues or if they have questions or just any way I can help them.
Yeah.
That is like the way we're going to win is stellar customer support. We're on their team 100%. But that was tough. It took a while to learn. You can't really set up these like really nice, like intercom style chat bots or anything like that. Like,
Yeah.
the way you're going to be in good graces with these people is if you're on the phone talking with them, telling them everything's going to be okay and solving their problems.
Yeah. What's particularly hard about your job as a founder?
I think the hardest thing is that there is no playbook.
Yeah.
People like to say there's a playbook for being a founder. There's like all these articles and blog posts and YouTube videos, but there isn't, man. And you're a founder, you know this. There is no playbook. One day you're going to be designing something. The next day you're going to be running Facebook ad campaigns. The next day you're out there interviewing customers. It changes, and you have to be not only willing, but excited to do the work, no matter what comes your way. And I've had to do some stuff that I hate, man, but like that's part of company building, right?
Yeah.
It's tough. But one thing I will say is I have the best team in the world. I'm stoked every Monday morning to wake up and work alongside these people. So yeah, surround yourself with good folks, and being a founder is going to be a lot easier.
Yeah. What's something you're good at now as a founder that you wish you were better at earlier on?
Talking with customers.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I was definitely scared of picking up the phone and calling users.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I still am a little bit, but at least now I can do it without like having to mentally prep every time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. It was like the expectation that things won't go well, and almost like, how much is that going to impact my productivity today? It's not necessarily like the emotion behind it, but it's like, man, what kind of level of effort is going to be added to that? But you learn so much from the conversations, which a lot of founders kind of talk about. Yeah.
Yep.
Whether it was early in your career or now, what books or people have really impacted you the most kind of in this journey?
Ooh, great question. Okay, first book, kind of hearkening back to my college days, Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek was kind of the first book that showed me creating a company and building the life that you want is possible. So that was more of an inspiration than anything. It's a little less of an actual playbook because being a founder and building the sort of automated company that Tim talks about is very different. But the second book would be 0 to 1, Blake Masters and Peter Thiel. That was a huge impact on me. The Lean Startup was a good one as far as like iterating product. How do you do that well? Yeah, probably those three were the big ones. Yep.
Yeah.
Actually, one more. Founding Sales. So my co-founder has read it. I'm working through it right now. That is like the most brass tacks book on how do you actually drive revenue through sales and build that sales engine. Really, really good stuff. And I don't even do sales, but it's good for me to know.
You're a founder. You do sales all the time. This
Oh
is
yeah. Totally right. No, that's totally true.
I always like to make sure, I know we're at the end of the episode here, I always like to make sure that we didn't leave anything on the table. Is there any question I didn't ask you that I should have, or anything that you didn't chat about that you wanted to bring up right before we sign off here? Anything left on the table?
Never stop learning, man. There's so much out there. If you're a founder, your job is never locked in. You're never done figuring out what's next or filling a hole. So never stop learning. We're in the age of AI. I'm so excited about AI. I think there's so many opportunities here. I've already started hacking around with some chatbots and stuff for the fun of it, just to see what's possible. I think if you're not looking at what the possibilities are, you're missing the biggest wave since the advent of the internet. So yeah, never stop learning. That's it.
Yeah, I love that, Jacob. And last little bit is, where can we support you? Where can we support Check? Give us all your plugs. What are your LinkedIns, your Twitters? Where can we get in touch with you, but also support the company and what you're working on?
Appreciate that, man. Yeah, so Check's website is hellocheck.co. You could also find us in the App Store just by searching Check. We're going to be in the top 2 or 3 apps in there. It's a white icon with a black mark in there. It looks like a house on a hill.
Yeah.
And then as far as personal stuff goes, don't even worry about following me on Twitter or LinkedIn. The number one thing you could do is go to my newsletter. It's called Making Product Sense, makingproductsense.com. I write every week on the coolest products out there, try to do a deep dive and dissect it and extract some of my favorite learnings from it. Give it a sub. I think you're going to be excited about what I write about. It gets me jacked every time because I get to do research into some of the coolest companies out there. And I try to bring it back down to brass tacks for the readers and make sure they can walk away with something actionable. So yeah, go hit me there. makingproductsense.com.
Yeah, amazing. I signed up for the newsletter, so I'm excited to see what products are out there. I think a lot of founders really, one of the things, my key takeaways from this is really the learning about products that are already doing it well and really embodying their practices and seeing how it's going to impact your business and not reinventing the wheel, like you mentioned earlier, and really being only innovative in the space that makes your business special and unique, but let everybody else do all the other work.
Yeah, focus on your core competency and don't reinvent the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. Jacob, it's been such a pleasure not only learn about your experience, but also how the product has evolved at Check and how you kind of reassessed how to really impact your customer base and seeing the ability for you to automate a lot of the processes that, are impacting these businesses and not a positive way, shifting that, automating that so they can focus on what, they do best, which is grow, deliver amazing services and amazing products to clients. It's only exciting, not only where your traction is now, but where you're going to be in the future and how much more you can impact these businesses and add to value to what they're doing. So Jacob, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thanks so much, Julian.